Welcome back. This lesson is all about tips for opening and closing your virtual training. So remember those two training structures that we associated with the different types of virtual training offers? Like the session one goes for the webinar, the podcast, the virtual class, and the module structure goes for an e-learning virtual training. Well, by now you should have chosen your structure and begun outlining your training, but you probably looked at that last worksheet and figured out you are going to need to fill in some holes. So, what are the holes? Well, remember we talked before about that beginning or the hook and the end or the closure that I told you not to worry about. We're going to address them now. So remember that these are all part of your virtual training, no matter whether you're doing a webinar, podcast, virtual class, or e-learning. You're always going to have a hook, some content, and some closure. So today we're going to talk about the hook and the closure. No, we're not talking about sewing. We're talking about how we can introduce and close our virtual training. So first up, we have the hook. And what are you noticing about this lovely lady that's in our photo here? If you had to describe her, what adjectives would you use to look at her photo? You might say that she's excited or nervous or anxious. And we don't really want to make them anxious or too nervous, but that excitement, it's like when you have a gift and you're getting ready to open it and someone says, wait, 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 not yet. That's what you want to do in your hook. You want to be able to get your students motivated for your session or for your module. You want to get them excited. So how do you do that? You're going to answer some questions. You need to be able to identify what your students are going to be learning and why. Okay, this why is important because here's where you're going to pull from the big picture. So it's not just a list of milestones or outcomes or objectives that they're going to achieve. It's not an agenda. It is not just that. It is so much more. It is how do these things fit into the big picture? And then you're going to answer what will they be able to achieve? So what are they going to learn? Why is it important? And then what can they do with this information or this skill or whatever? What will they be able to achieve? And so what you're doing is in the hook, you want to pull them in. And one way to do that is to show the transformation right up front. You remember that A and then that Z? Figure out a story or you can tell your personal journey on the topic, or you can even pull out a case study. So let's say we're doing a virtual training that is all about resume writing. Yes, I'm going to keep referring back to this example. And in the beginning, what I might do is I might tell the story or show a video of a graduating student who is entering the job market and how frustrated they are and how they feel and going through that transformation of where they were and where they might be. And that really gives your students something tangible to hold on to. So in your hook, again, make sure you're going over what your students will learn and why, what will they be able to achieve, and you might want to include a case study or a story of your personal journey. Then, when you are finished going through the rest of your main teachings in your session or your module, you're going to do a closure. You're going to wrap it all up nicely with a bow. Because what you need to do is you need to remind students of what you've just accomplished together. So you're going to need to have to answer that question for your students of what have we achieved? And this is when you go back and you're going to point out how what they achieved ties to the biggest picture. And I want you not only to do this, but I want you to congratulate them on finishing that training session or that module. And I want you to tease them into the next session or module. Now, what are some things that you can include in your closure to figure out how you can demonstrate what we've achieved? Well, if you noticed in the last module for our closure, for me, I included a checklist, right? And I hope that that got you really excited to figure out, okay, I checked this off. Wow, what's next? What can I do next? So you can do that. You can think about including an interview with an expert. You might even think about doing another case study. So if you started your virtual training that's all about resume writing, about that graduating student who is now on the job market, who was feeling confused, you showed their A, now you might show their Z and tell that story about what they did to accomplish it. That might be a clever way of you recapping or overviewing those milestones that they've accomplished. Or you might even be really clever and issue a challenge. You want to give them this motivation. You want to have them excited to keep going. And one of, like I said, the best ways to create engaging hooks and closures for your training is through storytelling. So, in the next lesson, we are going to explore the arts of storytelling because we want to be able to personalize your virtual training. So if you're ready to get into the art of storytelling and learn a little bit more about how you can use case studies and stories in your training and your hooks and your closures to make it more impactful, hop on over to the next lesson. See you there.